Hello, my name is Cole Williamson, and I'm a librarian with LSC-Montgomery. The main purpose of academic librarians is to assist students in locating the resources they need for their various papers and projects. And this includes things such as helping students understand the requirements of an assignment in terms of the types of resources they're expected to have, how to locate those resources, basically which tools to use, and techniques on how to use those tools such as databases. Academic librarians also assist with concepts in information literacy, basically the idea how information is created and then how students can evaluate that information for authenticity and authority. And finally, academic librarians also assist with locating information on crafting proper citations for the various papers and projects students have. Okay, today we're going to look at the research process and how to locate the library's resources, and also how to use the databases in the library's collection. For starters, we always like to look at the initial challenge of picking a research topic and basically just the beginning steps in any research. First off, places you can look are things like reference resources, encyclopedias, dictionaries. These can help you gain a broad overview of various topics, give you some basic background information to help you decide if you would like to pursue a specific topic more in depth. The library also creates web pages called research guides, and these are going to give you resources both for background research into different subject areas, but also resources for databases, websites, and other materials that may be useful in more in-depth research. And finally, students are also able to talk to librarians about where they could start with researching a specific topic they have in mind, or for resources in helping them choose the topic as well. The three main formats that students are going to encounter when they begin research is going to be books, articles, and websites. Books and articles, these are mainly going to be located through the library, and of course there's also going to be electronic versions of both of these. We have collections where students can search for ebooks, as well as many databases that students can locate academic articles. The third format is general websites, and of course students can find lots of useful information online. Government websites are going to have official public policy, various statistics that are collected by the government, and then also they can use the websites to determine public opinion or public knowledge about specific topics, which can also be useful in various forms of research. Often students come to the librarians expecting to find articles directly about the topic that they're pursuing. And often this is not the case because as students, as people doing research in various fields of study, you're often being asked to come up with new ideas and further the academic conversations that are going on in these various subject areas. And so in a lot of ways you're being asked to basically come up with your own ideas and find resources that support in some way the various aspects that go into this idea. And so oftentimes when you look at reference resources, books, and journal articles, you're having to synthesize the concepts that you're going to find in these various sources and see how they can further the arguments you're trying to make, how arguments made in past academic research could point towards the conclusions that you were trying to put forward in your own research. Okay. One of the first things you're going to have to begin working with as you especially delve into academic databases is the scope of what it is you're searching for. And by this, you're going to start with a very broad topic, and as you begin to learn more about it, you will eventually find something far more specific that you would like to focus your attention onto. Especially when you deal with topics that have a lot written about them, such as in the example you see here. You're going to have to find ways to narrow down what it is you're searching for, just because you're going to end up getting thousands, if not tens of thousands of results in a database on these broader topics. So as you begin to answer questions both of your own interest and then also as you discover things in your background research, you're going to be able to slowly narrow down the scope until you're focusing on a specific aspect of the broader topic that you would like to do research on. Eventually, once you narrow down that topic, you're going to want to come to a research question. And this is going to be a one-sentence question that sums up the research that you're wishing to pursue from that point forward. Now, this doesn't have to be final. Oftentimes you can revise this as you learn more about your topic. You may find ways to rephrase that research question that are more apt to what you're finding in your initial research. But this is going to help you begin to really focus what it is you're looking for within databases. Databases, unlike search engines online, you don't generally use natural language, so you would not put in an entire research question into a database search bar. At least you wouldn't be able to find many results doing it that way. What you're going to want to do is use specific keywords that relate to the topic at hand and will help point you toward the correct articles. And so you can see here one way to locate keywords is to mine the research question itself. What particular phrases or names or particular terms pop out that are hyper-specific to what it is you're really wanting to focus on. This is one way that you can find some of your initial search terms. Also, you're going to want to look at other ways of saying the same thing sometimes. If you can find synonyms for your terms, or if you can find ways of breaking down a term into more complex or even less complex terminology. Any of these sorts of terms, also related terms, things that are closely related even if they're not exactly the same as some of the terms that you've already identified, each of these will help you locate more and more articles that will be useful to your research. Okay, one of the functions that operates within databases and also often in many search engines as well are what are known as Boolean operators. And it's a fancy terminology for the three words and, or, and not. These act as commands within a database. Generally, and is the default. So if you put in a series of terms, it's going to assume that there's an and between each of those words, and it's going to look for articles that have all the words that you've put in there. And so any article that has all the words, it's considered to have more relevance towards what it is you're looking for, and therefore will show up closer to the top of your search results. But you can vary these terms to help make sure that you increase that relevance to your search results. For starters, the or statement, often if there are multiple terms for one concept or topic, it's helpful to put in an or statement since you're not sure which term the author may have preferred when they were writing. And so that way you manage to cover your bases by collecting together multiple terminology. Also, if you know that the terminology that you are using or your keywords that you're using can be used in other topics that don't necessarily relate to the topic you're searching for, you can use a not statement to sift out some of those other articles. And basically you would just look for a term that is common with some of those other articles and use that term after a not statement. And it'll go ahead and sift out some of those and help you get rid of things that aren't relevant to what it is you're searching for. Next thing you can do in databases is techniques known as power searching. These are various symbols that act as commands within a database. The one most likely used is probably the quotations for phrase searching. As you can see in the example below, if we have 1918 influenza pandemic, and a search bar without quotations is going to look for each one of those words individually. It's assuming there's an and between each of those words. And so just because those words in an article, it may not be in the correct reference or relevance to what it is you're actually looking for. If we put these in quotations, however, it's going to tell the database, treat this as one word. Basically, look for instances of these words when they're all together inside of a paper. And so that helps you increase relevance whenever you have those sorts of phrases pop in your research. Next is the asterisk for the truncation search function within a database. Oftentimes words will have a similar root word, and if you know each one of those words has bearing to your research, you can put in that root word with an asterisk and it will find other versions of that word. An example that we're using here, if we use child with an asterisk in a search bar within a database, it will locate child, but it'll also locate children, childhood. Any word that has the word child as a root will come up in your searching. Finally is the wildcards search function. And this is appropriate whenever you have words that have multiple spellings, depending on the dialect that they may have been written in. An example would be color spelled with a U, which is quite common in United Kingdom or Great Britain. The sources that you find in your research will often come in two types: primary sources and secondary sources. Primary sources can be some things like original creative works and history. This could be things like diaries, could be government documents, photographs, original records or reports from incidents, and arts. It can be things like sheet music, sculptures, paintings. In the social sciences, original research, and also in hard sciences, original research would count as primary resources. Anytime that original experimentation or studies have been conducted with methodology and then results given, that would count as a primary source in those fields of study. In those fields, oftentimes what you'll notice is that the papers are divided up into very distinct sections, and this is quite commonplace amongst many publications, and so it's excellent shorthand to be able to search through papers and pick out the sections that are most going to help you to determine if something is useful for your research. The first is the abstract. It's basically just going to be a brief summary of the study to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. You can also look for the methodology to see, does it use participants, basically to see if it is an original research study or if they're scanning through collections of research to create a review. And then finally the discussion. This is where they interpret the data and let you, or give you their interpretation of what they think the results they received means from the study. And then also it's also nice to look at the list of citations or references at the end just to find out where they got some of their information to formulate their own arguments from. Next is secondary sources, and oftentimes if you find, let's say, a book in the library that is talking about like the broad overview of subjects such as in history, they've collected together primary sources and information from those sources into a much more digestible format, basically something that you could pick up in one volume and learn about a topic without having to look at all the various original documents that they used to come up with that information. These are going to be great for learning about topics for the first time, or also learning everything that's been written about a topic. This is common in things such as literature reviews, where it lets you know who all has written about specific topics, how many articles are out there about that topic that you could look through. And so secondary sources can be an excellent avenue for research, even in the academic setting. Okay, and again, literature reviews are great for knowing who are some of the leading researchers in the field, what are some various things that have already been agreed upon by researchers up until this point, and also what's really helpful when you're doing your initial research is understanding where some of the gaps are in the existing information that you could potentially come up with your own ideas to try and answer some of those gaps. Another way sources are divided up are between popular and scholarly. Popular resources, you're going to very commonly encounter these on newsstands, whether it's at a Barnes & Noble or in an airport. And anytime you see magazines, these are 99% of the time going to be popular sources. They're usually very eye-catching. They have glossy covers, lots of art. They're usually meant to entertain and inform, but they're also for profit. So they're usually going to have lots of ads inside. And they're not usually going to reference too much, if at all sometimes. It's really not meant for academic delving in that sense. Okay, and this can be compared to scholarly articles, which are much plainer. Anything you see is usually going to be black and white text. The only images there might be is going to be charts and graphs of collected data or data from results from various research that they've conducted. You're not going to see ads, and you're usually going to see copious references at the end of these articles where they detail where they got much of their information from. And again, this is usually going to be written by experts in the field, and the main audience this is for is going to be other experts. This is basically how they're sharing information between each other to basically further their field of study. And so eventually this is where you're going to want to get to for your own academic research. This is where basically the cutting edge of that field is going to be discussed. And one of the ways that academic articles or academic journals maintain the authority and the authenticity that they are famous for is through a process called peer review. Basically, an academic who wants to submit an article to one of these publications that has to go through a committee of other experts. This committee could be 3 to 5 additional experts in the field will review the article has been submitted. They'll look for any missing information they think needs to be included, anything that they think may perhaps require some edits or additions. They will send it back, and basically this can go through several rounds until finally, once all of the experts on the committee give it their vote of approval, only then does it receive publication. Generally, the author does not know who the reviewers are, and the reviewers often don't know who the author is, and this is meant to try and weed out as much bias as possible to the eventual publication of articles. Okay, next we're going to take a look at how to locate information that the library has on the library's website, and then also we're going to take a look at one of the databases that you can use for historical research and basically go through some of those tips and techniques that we discussed in the slides previously. Okay, so to begin, we're going to go to this link here at the top that says Libraries. A couple things to point out here. You can actually find lots of information right here on these tabs. You can find articles by subject, find collections of ebooks, some of our video collections. You can also search the catalog and find contact information for your specific campus. There's a chat window here so that you can speak directly with a librarian online. And once we scroll down, you're going to see each of the campuses listed under this heading Research Guides. So we're going to go ahead and select LSC-Montgomery. Okay, following that link is going to take us to the LSC-Montgomery resource portal. Now from here you can navigate using either these tabs or these buttons and tabs created down here to locate various services that the library has to offer. There's also a scrolling marquee, including such things as announcements, our virtual book display, and other information the library wants to have front and center. We have a FAQ that we keep up to date here. We also have additional contact information, including the same chat we saw before, but also telephone and email to contact LSC Montgomery Library specifically. You can find information on the librarians down here. And then also you're going to find these two drop-down menus that give you access to the various research guides we have. The drop-down on the left is going to have subject-specific guides, and the one on the right is going to have other guides with various skills or special topics. For our purposes, we're going to go ahead and select History from the subject guide, and then hit Go. Each of the subject guides is designed to mirror the research process as a whole. So using these tabs, we can go through, get started. This is going to talk about choosing your research topic, understanding important questions to have from the beginning, such as what are your due dates, including if you have multiple due dates throughout the project. What sort of citation style are you expected to use for your reference list? Also, we'll have a tab for background research, basically any sort of reference databases we have that we feel will be useful in those regards. On Find Sources, you're going to find links to the catalog for books and other physical media, a link for the various databases, whether it's articles, videos, or ebooks, and then a third link where we've listed together any recommended websites that we feel are reputable and useful for that subject area. On the tab following, it says Evaluate Your Sources. Here you're going to find information that will help you in evaluating sources you may find outside the library for authority and authenticity. And then each of the remaining links was going to take you to another page. Use Your Sources will take you to the right place to get help with writing your paper. We have a page with information for citing your sources in a variety of styles. And then the last one is going to connect you to tutoring so that you can find help in various subject guides that you might have. Okay, so let's go ahead and select Databases from Find Sources. And then we're going to select Scholarly Articles. And here we're going to see a list of databases that are going to have articles to assist us in history research. And for our purposes today, let's go ahead and select JSTOR. Now, if you're accessing the library databases from home, you're going to have to log in. You can do that either with the library barcode, and that's going to be the 14-digit barcode, the long one, on the back of your student ID. Or you can use this link here to log in with your MindLoneStar username and password. Okay, once you're in a database, if you see a single search bar, I always suggest look for the advanced search option. Often it'll be under the main search bar. It could be up in the corner somewhere, but usually that's going to give you a lot more options to play around with in your searching. So let's kind of give this a shot based on some of the techniques we learned before. Okay, so for starters, let's say we want to look at the 1918 influenza pandemic. And let's go ahead and submit that search. Okay, so right away you can see we're getting over 2,000 results. It's actually not too high of a number, but still quite a bit to try and sift through. So let's say we go ahead and go to this link that says Modify Search. And we're going to add in some additional terms here. So let's say we wanted to focus on the United States. And next I'm going to go ahead and add a box here. And I want to focus on public health and also the role of mass media in that. Let's go ahead and search again. Okay, down to 236. That's quite a leap, but let's go ahead and see what else we can do here. Let's go ahead and put this topic in quotations, and also United States as well. And also, let's say we really only want to look at articles in this regard. So that got us down to 20, so you can see how additional terminology, having an idea of what you'd like to focus your broad topic on, can really help you get these to much more manageable numbers. Okay, so if you scroll through and you see an article that looks interesting, you can go ahead and select the title. From here you have several options. You're going to be able to find out more about the publication itself. You can get a citation for the article here. And also you can locate the PDF right here. And basically it's just asking you if you understand issues of copyright. You can go ahead and accept. And from there, view the original article in its entirety. Okay, let's try another search. Let's see if we can't use some of the other techniques that we discussed before. Let's say this time we want to look at the fur trade. I'm going to go ahead and put this in quotations. Treat that as a phrase. And let's say we want to focus on colonial America. Now we want to focus our particular topic on the French fur trade. So let's say French or France. And that way we'll make sure that we get both variations on that term. And we want to see how this affected the French use of diplomacy with some of the Native American tribes. So let's put in diploma, and we also want to think about diplomacy, diplomatic, and so we're going to put an asterisk here to get variations on that root word. And once again, let's select articles. Okay, got quite a number here. We can go ahead and also restrict our year range. So let's say we really only want to look at articles written in the last 10 years. Let's apply that. And looking through our subject areas, let's focus on articles in history. So we've gotten this down to 71. And once again, we can select one of our articles. And find information about it and view the article itself. Many of our databases are going to have information that can help you, but they're going to be from various different publishers. So some of them may look different from the one that we are looking at today. If you need help with any of the databases, please don't hesitate to ask for assistance from a librarian, and we will definitely be happy to help you with any of the resources that we have, as well as citation questions and just general questions on information literacy as well. This is going to conclude this video, and again, please let us know if you need help with research in the future. Thank you.